Hi, what's up guys? This is another week in indoor cycling. Once again, really appreciate those of you who've subscribed, trying to build the channel. If we can get to 1,000 by the end of the year, it'd be fantastic. So please like, subscribe, notify, all that sort of stuff. This week on indoor cycling, we're covering racing, particularly on Zwift, but it'll apply anywhere on indoor platforms. Robbie and Zuend, one of the top E-racers from among the amateur ranks, massive knowledge. Watch the video and get loads out of it. Thanks for watching. Robbie Zuend, captain, chief executive, I don't know what the right title is really, main man in charge of KISS Racing Team, arguably the most famous racing team on Zwift. So thank you very much for spending time talking to us here on the Titanium Geek.
Absolutely, pleasure.
So Robbie, for people who've, the very few people who've not come across you, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are in the world and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm you'll see me racing in Zwift under a Swiss flag. I was born in Switzerland, moved to the States when I was 10, moved all over the Midwest before moving down to Florida here a year ago now. So decided that I wanted to live in the 95-degree, 90% humidity summers in Florida, where there's not a climb to be found. So obviously riding outside here is not that interesting, to be quite frank. It's nice in January, but in the summer it's not that pleasant. So I've been riding since I was in college, so whatever, 2007. Started riding to lose weight mainly, and after that started racing outdoors a couple years later. Loved it, but never really serious. Didn't do any coaching, didn't do anything, puttered around in the Cat 4 here in the US, the Cat 4 world for 5 years before I finally said, okay, let me get a coach. Made huge strides in 2 years. Then now I'm a Cat 2 outside. Haven't been outside in a year though, to be honest. We can get into that later, why I don't ride outside a whole bunch anymore, but that's the life story. I'm on Zwift most every day. I'm hoping to try some other platforms out. Road Grand Tour, hear good things. So be curious to try that out in the future. But that's me in a nutshell. Got a couple kids. Got my wife who is very good to let me do this kind of stuff. But that's also why I ride at 4:30 in the morning to keep her happy, not take up the whole day.
So at 4:30 in the morning?
Yeah, most days. Usually I get up at 4:15, hop on the bike and start pedaling, and then try to be off by 6, and then head into work. So most every day, even on the weekends. But it is what it is.
That is fantastic. What time do you go to bed?
Like 8.
That's great. So what's your Zwift setup, turbo trainer, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So when I first started Zwifting, I just had a Stages power meter, right? A little one-sided power meter, and that was good enough then. And as I started doing it more and more and wanted to get a little more into it, I got first had a Tax Flux, then I had a Doretto, and now I'm on my second Neo now, Neo 2. So each have their different little qualities that are good and bad. But the Neo, I feel like it's taken a bunch of watts from me, but that's all right. Maybe I'm just not as strong as I thought I was. But riding a Neo right now with my old cracked frame Giant Propel that I used to race outside. I damaged it, and I said, well, we'll stick it on the indoor bike, and nothing too bad can happen here if it fails. So
that's right. It's not about this. That's a good plan for people. I've not thought about that so else, because I need another part from a turbo trainer. You don't feel, something with a non-critical crack. It's not a bad idea.
Exactly. It is non-critical. Yeah. It's not like thing's gonna snap in half. But yeah.
That's really so. On the sorry, a little rabbit hole, but to go down because it's worthwhile. Because I've got a Neo, and so it's an original Neo, and this Elite Dorito XR that we've got on test at the moment. I don't know about you, but I find the Dorito easier to get over on the watts. On paper they're as accurate, but it seems like you can keep the watts going. But the Neo, I always feel like I'm fighting it.
I feel the same way, and it's like pedaling through mud sometimes. It's just a weird feeling, and it takes a little bit I guess it takes a bit to get used to, and I've been on the thing for, to be honest, I got it because we had a baby, 9 months, she's 9 months old now, and I got it because it's, quieter. So that's the main reason I got it. And to be honest, it's not that much quieter than the Duretto, but, I got it at the time, and because it's nice too that you don't have to calibrate the thing. So, that theoretically the watts are always, correct. So I feel good about that, but, yeah, I struggle to get the watts out there that I did on the Duretto, which I calibrate regularly, and I have a power meter on the bike too, just cross reference. But I think that's definitely the case.
Yeah. It doesn't feel real enough to me. I mean, great when you go for cobbles and stuff like that. What's really interesting with the Sturzo up front and the Neo behind, that's fantastic because you get everything. You get steering, you get bumps, But
yeah, for sure. It's interesting. The first thing I did though when I got the Neo is I turned off the road feel. I didn't care for it. It was a bit too much for me. I don't know why, but maybe I haven't gone back and turned it on again. But having that the first time, I turned that off almost right away.
Yeah, I call it bomb haptics. So if you were to start Zwift racing all over again, what do you wish you'd known?
Yeah. So the biggest thing I think is I spent a lot of time the first year or so of Zwift racing is trying to make it like outdoor racing. To say this is going to be like outdoor racing. I'm going to race this like outdoor racing, but it's totally different, right? It's got the same, you're pedaling a bike, but the race dynamics, the chasing, the blob effect, right? That kind of stuff, it makes it different. So, you spend the first few times, first dozen times, first 20 times you Zwift, you're just wasting energy, right? You waste a ton of energy not sitting in the pack, but because you think you're trying to get off the front, you're not going anywhere, right? There's nowhere to go. It's very hard to get off the front. When you can just sit there and relax, and you really wait for the moments where the accelerations are coming. And I've got 800 plus races on Zwift, so I know where the accelerations come. I know where the moves are going to happen, and you just conserve until you get there. Out on the road, it's different. I race mostly crits outdoors. And you can race a crit at 30 miles an hour, for the course of an hour, and you can average 200 watts, in the Pro 1-2 ranks, because you're coasting all the time. It's coast, pedal, coast. You don't do that here. So you really got to kind of change your approach from a training standpoint to it. You're not, it's hard. My FTP is not very high, right? I'm 320 for a guy that weighs $165. It's not bad, but I'm not an STP kind of guy. So I've always been a 1 minute power, 5 minute power. That's kind of my range. And to be honest, that in Zwift, that's sometimes enough. Which is, we can get in the race category thing a little bit later, but that's kind of interesting, right? You don't need to have a good STP to be a good Zwifter. It helps, for going up a climb or doing something like that, but
Yeah, it's interesting. I did a 2-hour thing. This was it's our own KISS KRT 80 kilometer.
I've done it, yeah.
Yeah, so I was doing that this morning, and you think you could sit on the front, couldn't you, from 2 hours, just absolutely killing the watts, and you go no further than the person who's sitting in the group at 2.5.
Exactly, and that's the frustrating thing, right? For a lot of people who are expecting it to be like outdoor cycling, they expect to be able to ride off the front. I know if I'm doing 5 watts, and the group's doing the head of the group's doing 4 behind me, I'm going to get away, outdoors. Indoors, you're probably still not going to get away, right? Because of Zwift physics, as I like to say. I don't know how some of it works, but that blob it eats everything up. So yeah. I think that's the big thing that you gotta know when you're getting into Zwift racing from the outdoor scene.
Great advice. That's really good. Thank you. So when you mentioned training, then, so what are your top tips for training for Zwift races?
You're probably asking the wrong guy for training. Like I said, when I was at my best cycling, I was training. I had a coach, and I I stuck to a pretty good routine, but now I go out and I enjoy it so much. I just go out and race most every day, right? And I'll race, 6, 10, 14 days in a row. And then there'll be a point where, man, my legs don't work anymore. And then I'll take a day off, and then I'll go right back to it. But if I were to train properly, which I may again someday, it's really, like I've mentioned before, if you can hang with these 1 to 2 to 3 minute efforts on most courses, you're gonna be good. All right, I do a lot of, I race in the ACAT, and you'll see I rarely average over 4, for 20 minutes, rarely. Because I can sit in at 3.6, 3.7. I can just sit, and then accelerate. When it's needed. You have those short bursts of power. Now in the bigger races where the guys are doing 5.5, for right off the front, everybody's doing it, and I struggle, right? Which is fine. I'm never going to be at that level, and I understand that. But I would really recommend training the shorter stuff, right? It's nice to have a high FTP. It looks cool. It's something to brag about, but I don't think it's that important, to be quite honest, to be competitive in Zwift, which is why the category thing is the race category thing is kind of a bogus thing. But
go on then.
I'm sure we can get
magic wand. So you've got your magic wand. So you've got your magic wand, which is a Sharpie pen. But you to wave it. How would you alter the race categories?
Results based. I mean, basically, that's it. I mean, just like it is in, I don't know how it is in Europe, but like it is in the States. It's you start out as a Cat 5 and you earn a upgrade to 4 based on results, and eventually you reach your spot where you're supposed to be, right? I'm a Cat 3. I'm not ever getting better than Cat 3, and those are I can be competitive in that, but as soon as I go up to 2, I'm not going to be. So if you're doing, there's a lot of guys that have good FTPs that have no, 1 minute power. So every time there's you're going up the Watopia KOM forward, you're gonna get dropped because there's guys who got, 8, 9, 10 watt per kilogram, 1 minute power. And a guy with he may have a 4.5 FTP, but if his 1 minute power is, 6, 7, he's done, right? And you're stuck there and frustrated because you're getting dropped every time in an ACAT race. And it's interesting for me. So like I said, my FTP it's like 4.2, 4.3. After my last baby was born, I obviously couldn't train, and I gained weight and I lost a lot of power. So I was racing the VCAT for a while, which hopefully that's okay. Because my FTP is not very good, but I could podium most every race just because that 1 to 2 minute power, you don't lose that as quick as you do your FTP. At least I don't feel like I do. And you can suffer through those, and you can do well without ever getting close to breaking that cat limit in B, which is just encourages, to be quite frank, sandbagging, right? And it might not even, it's not deliberate sandbagging per se, because you're not breaking the FTP barrier. Maybe really your FTP is 3.99, right? But if you have good 1 2 minute power, you're going to win almost everything, right?
That's right, isn't it? Because I don't race that often, and most of the races I do are in it's called Zwift 2.0 meetups, isn't it? These secret races. But what I find is I see comments, as we all do, as we're riding around, people asking what the average, how do they find out their average watts per kilogram? And clearly they've got something up on the head unit, or some people have, to make sure they're not breaching the barrier, C race, not going above 3.2. Right. Yeah, and I suppose you could do that all the time, couldn't you? You could be a B, always riding in C, but not wanting to overextend yourself, keeping it under 3.2, and then you don't get flagged on Zwift power. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, the best races are always the B category races where you're going up the epic KOM. It's a 20-minute KOM, and you see everyone just kind of sitting there. I'm not going to go over whatever 4.2 that I need to go over to get this, and everyone kind of. You kind of get the feeling everyone's holding back, but and that's gonna, if they don't do anything with proper race categorization, it doesn't matter if they have anti-sandbagging rules or anything like that. It's just not going to make a difference.
You're right. I can't see what's so
And
difficult about it. You're right. Over here, it's exactly the same. So, or more or less the same. So, real life, you go up your categories based on points. I'm a bit out of it, but you used to be able to take a year off, and then you could go back through the categories again, and you could do it that way.
You can, yeah.
Yeah. So if you,
Yeah, I mean, if you have an injury or you have a, a family event or something, you can apply for a downgrade, and usually those are granted, right, for life circumstances. And that's fair. I mean, that happens to everybody, right? I wish after I was a very good Cat 3 and I upgraded to Cat 2, and I have not seen the front of a race since that. So it's it's a big gulf between the B's and the A's, especially the top of the A's. Because I don't know how it is there, but the Cat 2s here in the U.S., they mostly race with the pros and the ones, because there's not many Cat 2s, it seems. And once you get to the Cat 2 level, either you make it to one or you burn out because you never see the front of a race again, right? And that's part of the appealing thing on Zwift too. And I think it's, everyone loves to be at the front of the race, right? Yeah. Everyone wants to be in contention. And that's where the sandbagging comes from. That without race categories, I don't see how it's going to work. And the thing that frustrates me so much, and I'm sure a lot of people, is that everything's there, everything's in place to make that happen, right? We have Zwift Power results where we have points, and we have, we know we have the data. It's there, so let's use it. Because I believe the Zwift Power ranking system is based on how the U.S. Ranking system is done. The race ranking. So it's there. It exists. Use it.
So Eric and Charlie, if you're listening.
Yeah.
Eric and Charlie, get sorted. So it's only maths.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know they got a lot of stuff going on, right? And I always hear racing's not a big part of their business. And I don't know how many people race. To be honest, what percentage of people race on Zwift? But I'll tell you, when I first found Zwift in 2015, and before then I was an outdoors only guy. I would never ride inside, never. 30 minutes on a turbo trainer is about all I could muster. I remember me and one of our KRT teammates now, Jesse, we lived in St. Louis, and it'd be 0 degrees, 0 F. And we would put a little whiskey in the bottle so the water wouldn't freeze, and we'd go out and ride. We would do that, and I would never ride inside. And Zwift came around, and I did a little bit at first, and I still didn't take to it, to be quite honest, at first, until I did my first race somewhere in October 2015, something like that. And after that first race, man, that's when I was hooked, and that's all I do since. I rarely free ride, very rarely, because it's not that much more interesting than a turbo trainer to me. I like the competitiveness of riding with other people. I like the group rides too, even just group rides where you're social. But even just when I was just doing free rides, it wasn't that interesting. But the racing is, for me, and I assume a lot of competitive people, is what really draws me into this Zwift racing or the Zwifting.
Yeah, I find just going out just a faff personally. So you just get dressed up. By the time you got dressed up and you've got your bike out and you pump the tires up and all that sort of stuff, I'll be 15 minutes into a Zwift ride now.
No, for sure, and that's a great point, right? And so how Zwift affects my racing outdoors. At first, it was great, right? I would train much better in the winter. You come out firing on all cylinders in April, in those first spring races. And then, gradually I Zwifted more and raced outdoor less. And, it gets to the point where, do I really want to, pack the car up, drive 2 hours? It might be raining, drive 2 hours, warm up for an hour, check in, blah, blah, blah. And, race for, an hour and a half and get everything back home. And, the day's gone, where I could get a great workout by, going to the basement, and it's done in an hour and a half, and, before the wife's even up. So I found that as time went on, I spent less time using Zwift as a way of getting fit for outdoors, and more of this is just so easy to do. And it's not just Zwift, like any indoor racing that you can find yourself interested in. It's so easy.
You must be really popular with your wife. So it must be really,
Yeah,
yeah, because I mean you've got all this time now for DIY and stuff like that. Or if you raced outdoors, you know.
believe me, yes, yeah, yeah. I get much more on the honey-do list than in the past.
So,
But you with kids too. So I mean, that's the big thing, right?
yeah, absolutely. We had a thing over here where crit racing over here recently was, because of the pandemic, was limited to, you could only do 2 15-minute races in an event. And you can imagine the day was undersubscribed and they cancelled it. And I think Zwift had a massive impact on their indoor racing, because I think a lot of people just thought, oh, by the time I've driven there, So I could have been on Zwift and done a couple of races, and
Exactly, and if you're looking to get the best workout in the short amount of time possible, there's really no good substitute. That's not to say I don't ride outside, right? I do, I definitely do. I enjoy the scenery, I enjoy the the peace and quiet. If I'm just riding outside, but racing outside now, it's been a year. No, I don't think I will stop doing it, but the older I get, the less you bounce back from crashing, right? And crit racing is, it's not the safest thing in the world. I'm not saying it's super dangerous, but you're gonna crash. And I don't heal as well as I did when I was 25. So
yeah, absolutely. I've fallen off my turbo trainer. That's another story. So
I have all.
So right, so that is next one. So I put this, when I sent these to you, there's a number of questions in one, sorry. So from all the races that are on Zwift, which are the ones that you recommend? So let's say we put this, let's do it from, so this is a complete novice. So let's say this is somebody who does a bit of cycling, they have a competitive spirit, they've set the indoor trainer up, they've discovered, let's say Zwift, and they discovered racing, but they don't know which ones to enter. What would you recommend?
Yeah, so I think personally, if you're new to the whole thing, and I still do these kinds of events a lot, is the ride and race kind of events, right? Where you spend 30 minutes riding around, chatting, being social, getting to know people, which is awesome, right? I do a few of those. I do one on Saturday, the hang on ride. On the Wednesday, the ABV espresso ride, and then on Tuesday, another one. And those kind of rides, you get to know people, you get to learn people, learn people's names, kind of learn their habits, and then you go balls out for 20 minutes at the end. And I think that's just the most fun, right? And it's because you get the best of both things in Zwift, right? You get the racing, you get the competitiveness, but you also get that social piece of it, because it's tough when you line up. And I do plenty of these too, right? You line up in the Kiss America's AM race, and everyone goes freaking nuts, for the first 5 minutes, and you're trying to catch your breath, and you're dying. As a new guy, it's just, when you're getting into that, it's tough, because a lot of the new guys too, they don't know that you got to go balls out, right away. So they do a few races and they get discouraged because, oh shit, I can't hang on. This is terrible. And then they kind of give up. And I'm sure that happens, but that's why I really like those ride and race kind of events, because it's just, you get to ease into the pain. So that's the nice bit of it. But yeah, and I still, like I said, I still do a lot of those. 3 times a week, that's the kind of stuff I do. So.
Yeah, I do. Interestingly, with the hang-on ride, I think is that ZHR? I'm not quite sure. I'm trying to remember who organised that one.
The hang-on ride is EN, Endurance Nation.
Is it EN Endurance Nation? Is it? That's it. And I know the ODZ one. Great groups. ODZ in particular, I love their events. They're really good. So, what about somebody then who's experienced for racing? They've got an existing CAT license. They're going to start racing on Zwift, not taking it serious enough so far, and they're going to do some events. Which ones do you recommend for those?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the KISS races I used to do every morning, every Tuesday, Thursday morning, until I moved time zones. I like them. I think right now we're still split cats, which I think is very helpful for people, right? If you're a cat 4 outside and you're going to race as a C, it's nice to be able to, sandbagging aside, right? It's nice to be able to race with like-minded or like ability folks. As much as the categories allow that right now, but versus something like the 3R races, which nothing against the 3R races. I do plenty of them, but it's for the C cats and the B cats, it's how long can I hang on to the A cats? And sometimes that's good training, but as someone who's trying to get into racing, it's probably not the most, invigorating experience. And if you're really looking, like, and I don't do these kinds of things much because, as a low A, they kick my ass. But the big Zwift events, the Zwift races that, you got 400, 500 people signed up. Those are great. They're a great way to kind of test yourself against folks. The big, whatever the HQ ones are, off the map, I think was the latest one. And they're great, but they can, there's a lot of people. So, if you're 300th out of 400, it's not so bad. But I think those can be a lot of fun too. But I personally, I like the split cat races, especially when I was a B. It's much more interesting that way.
It must be tough in A, crikey. Yeah, that was a while ago for me. Old man's back. But anyway, another story. Right, okay, got that bit. Right, warm-ups. What do you do for a warm-up?
So yeah, I told you I get up at 4:30, right? So my warm-up it's not much. I typically I'll get on the bike. My warm-up course, my de facto course is Muir in the Mountain. I love that course because, and I usually only warm up for like 20 minutes, but I like that course because it forces me to change my cadence. It forces me to go hard because you start out and you go right up Titans reverse or Titans forward, Titans reverse.
Oh, I hate that course. I love the course, but you get me, but I hate the course. That is such a demanding course. It is, but it's good for warm up, right? Because if I just do a flat course, I'm just going to pedal around at 100 watts and do nothing. But with that course, when the trainer changes resistance, you have to change cadence. You have to go up. You got to go down. You got to sometimes put out 200 watts. You can coast a little bit again. But it forces me to do something otherwise I wouldn't, because it's hard to get myself going at 4:30 in the morning, to be quite frank. So that helps. So that's my course. I drink a Coke every morning to get my caffeine and wake my body up. Maybe not the best thing, but and then I go, right? So usually 20-25 minutes of warm up. If I have the time, try not to do less than 10, because if I do less than 10, I struggle. Those first 5 minutes, I am dying. And sometimes it doesn't settle down. And if it doesn't settle down by that time, you're dead. But you got to get those legs moving a little bit. So that's why I try to keep it like 20 minutes. If I were doing it in the afternoon, I'd probably do a little bit more of a warm up, but I don't want to get about 4. So I got to sleep at some point. Yeah, some going. I've got to take my hat off to you. I can't. Once upon a time, but nowadays I can't. I think.
Yeah, I'm curious how long I can keep doing it. To be quite honest, you couldn't get me on a bike before 8, 9 o'clock, even on the weekends in the mornings when I was younger. And some of my old buddies that I used to ride with give me grief. Like, you're getting up at 4 o'clock now. Every time we asked you to ride at 6, you said, no way, you're sleeping. So just different phases of life, right? Will change. So maybe once the kids are sleeping through the night all the time, and they got their activities, and it's different. But we have a good system now, so it works.
That's good. You must have a great CV as a newscaster. So also, I was just going to ask you about, I was just thinking about, say, the resistance going up and down when you're warming up. So where are you on the slider? Are you a 0%, or are you a 50 to 60? Are you a 100%?
Come on, if you're not doing 100%, you're cheating. Everyone knows that. No, despite what some people might read on the Facebook, Zwift Facebook group, I usually set it around 35-40% is where I sit. I like that change in feel. I like that change in resistance, but I don't want to be constantly cycling through the gears all the time either. So, and I think in racing, it's definitely just, it's not an advantage to be doing that. So that's kind of where I sit. But yeah, I love the discussions. Once a week you get the discussions on the 100% resistance. So.
That's why I put it in. It always makes me giggle. It's funny. The Neo, this is just me. I find the Neo between 50 and 60% seems to be its most responsive. That's just probably the courses I ride on. Whereas I found the Dorito. Yeah, but Dorito Dorito, this is the XR. I have to slide it down to 10% because it overreacts on some courses. So, you know, if
I found that too. And I think, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I rode the Dorito. It was a little bit delayed too. And it took me a while to get used to that. You know, you'd see your avatar on the gradient, and that it'd take us another second and a half or so before the gradient change kicked in. And when you're coming off of just racing on off of a power meter on a dumb trainer, it took a little while to get used to and kind of prep yourself. That's why Titans is such a challenge too, right? Because you're constantly going up and down, up and down, up and down, and the resistance going up and down, and you're trying to figure out exactly when to put the watts down and when you can coast.
Yeah, it's so hard. I mean, the Dorito, the XR is like nailed on. So you put the pressure on the pedal, it's on, but it's just.
Is that right?
I've written to Zwift. So apparently there's a few tickets. So how do you in a group? How do you use the draft?
Oh man, I suck wheel all day. That's all I do. You will not see me near the front of a group in a tough race, at all. I try to sit like second or third last wheel. You can save just so much energy, and it's all about being able to feather that effort, right? So you make the mistake of sitting in the back and going down a hill. Like I think a lot of times it happens to me in Yorkshire before the KOM. Get that descent going into the KOM, and if you come to the back and you're sitting in the back, but I'm a little bit of a heavier guy in Zwift terms, not in real world terms. And then you're sitting there coasting, you make it to the front, and then you get to the front and you're like, oh, crap. And then, you get to the front right at the base of the climb and everyone flies by you and you got to put in, 7-8 watts per kilogram just to get back on. So you really have to be careful that, you can manage the draft and not constantly yo-yoing back and forth. I think, and that's something you learn as you play the game, right? But and that's a lot of the tactics and a lot of the racecraft, I guess, if you will, is being able to manage yourself sitting back there and not do as little work as possible to stay in the group, right? That's always the key.
It's like a different type of drafting, isn't it? That's sort of a different type of braking, effectively. It is. People say there's no braking in Zwift. I suppose there is, but it's in a different way.
Right, exactly.
So, right, what's this now? Right, so if somebody really is, well, I suppose everybody wants to get on the podium and, first loser and all that sort of stuff. So what's the, so how do you, who's in there? Anyway, how do you get, what's the key thing for having a potential of getting on the podium in a race?
So other than having the ability to sprint, right?
Yeah.
Which that's and even sprinting on a trainer is a whole different thing than sprinting outside. And I still haven't mastered it, to be quite frank. I could probably put up 1,200 outside. Inside, if I get 1,000, I'm lucky, right? You just can't throw that bike around the place. But I mean, for me, it's really conserving as much energy as you can, especially in the last 5-10 minutes of a race. Don't follow a move that's, because most often it's not going to work, right? Don't follow a move where someone's pulling hard off the front, at 6-7, 2K out, because it's not going to last. It's not going to go anywhere. Don't chase that. Let everyone else do the work for you. And I'm great at that. That's one of my gifts is making other people do the work, right? So that's the biggest piece of advice I have, right? And then you don't have to be fresh, but you got to be fresher than everyone else at the end. That's the trick. And then, God, I struggle with this still, but you always want to go too early. But unless you got a really big jump and a really quick acceleration, that's tough, right? If you're going with a few hundred meters to go, you're probably going too early because everyone's going to come flying by you as they get on your draft. So it's that tough balance between going just at the right time, watching everyone's numbers in the right. When you see everyone start going up to 7, 8, when the numbers turn orange, that's when you got to step on the pedal. So you catch the draft and you can go with them. You hesitate a second, half a second, and they get that gap on you and you're done. So watching, I mean, that's the nice thing about, you can watch those folks' numbers, even if you can't see them behind you, you can watch them revving up, and you know that they're about to go. So I spend a lot of time looking at the right side of the screen at the end of the race and checking out what people's numbers are doing.
It's top information. I mean, that's like checking the post information. That's great. So finally, we've covered a lot of stuff. So we've covered, you know, kits, as in gear, setup, where the slider goes, warm up, all that sort of stuff. And then we've mentioned sandbaggers a few times. So what's your message to sandbaggers?
I guess I'll say the same thing a lot of people say, right? You're just cheating yourself, right? You're not letting yourself get any better. If it's easy for you and you're podium all the time, you know, you're not getting any fitter. You know, so you can crush the C's for, you know, 5 years, but there's still all the B cats and all the A cats, no matter what they're doing, they're faster than you, right? So, you know, is that virtual trophy worth it for you? I don't know. You know, it's definitely, like I said, it's more fun at the front of the race, but eventually Zwift's going to figure it out, and you won't have that opportunity anymore. So you might as well get faster now before they do, right?
Yeah, brilliant insight. So Robin, where can people find out more about you, to follow you racing and do your stream and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, so we have with the KRT Live Facebook group is just launched, right? We have Lewis is commentating on a lot of our B guys. Once I get my new computer situation figured out and I get myself to the 21st century in technology, hopefully I'll be streaming some on there too. But you can find the KRT guys, or I race almost, you know, every day. It's almost the same time, between 4:30 and 6 a.m. So I'm sure I'll be on there somewhere. And I'm a very chatty person on Zwift rides, probably annoying to a lot of people. And if it seems like I'm being an ass, that's just my sense of humor, and I apologize in advance for that if you have to deal with that. But the KRT Live, that group is, there's some quality stuff on there, and real good quality casts. So I'm looking for, you know, I'm glad that's back up and running. We used to have a lot of guys, you know, Ian's KRT rider focus rides back in the day. Those were great. That's what got me so excited about Zwift racing. And you know, you see yourself on the screen. It's kind of fun. Right? It's like, oh, look, it's me, you know. Hey, honey, look, it's me. I mean, she says she doesn't care, but whatever, you know. My son's impressed. My son, we were watching the Tour de France this morning, and he says, Dad, where are you up there? Where are you? I got you, so that's why I'm not up there. But yeah, that's where I'd find it. And yeah, I'm every morning between 4:30 and 6. I'll be on Zwift, you know, until the winter, once it gets nice here in Florida to ride outside.
And people can follow you. They can search for you on the companion app and follow you, Robin.
Yeah, for sure.
Zuend.
Yep. Yeah, I think on the companion app, and I think on Strava, I'm tuned with the umlaut, so Zuend, and it's not Zuend on there. Oh,
that's really good.
A little bit tricky. That's so that my boss can't find me when I'm you know, riding my bike when I should be working.
None of us do that. So
yeah, for sure.
So Robin, thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely, thank you.